What's going on, everybody? Landon here from Home Service Business Coach, and it's always good to be with you. And we're back again with a Jackson. I'm gonna call you a special guest, okay, Coach Jackson. I'm calling him a special guest, even though he is special, but he's definitely not a guest. Jackson, just a quick side note. I think you might be a mini celebrity in the home service space because the amount of calls I've had where Upflip is mentioned in that Jackson or Mount Baker window cleaning and for those that don't know, that's Jackson's company. So you're getting your publicity, whether you recognize it or not, man. So well done.
Yeah, thanks, Landon. No, I've definitely noticed that over the last little bit. It's been a funny change to have people coming on my calls, and I get a lot of the time actually. Hey, I started this business because I saw you in this video, and I'm like, oh man,
Yeah,
I better make sure that this guy knows what he's doing. I got him into
yeah,
this. So
well done.
yeah, it's been an interesting change, but man, I love helping people with business, especially in the home service space. So it's been a absolute pleasure of mine to be working with hundreds of people as of recently. So
Yeah, and it's been amazing to see the impact, I guess, would be lack of a better term, maybe that video has had your experience in that real time, which is incredible. And then seeing your growth as an individual, and also obviously as Mount Baker window cleaning as well too over the past year, just been a joy. And obviously many more years to come. But we're getting sappy, people. That's not what we're here about. We're not here to exchange all nice and kind words. We're here to talk about how the heck, Jackson, your branding is so well. How do we build a brand that stands out in the marketplace today? Reason why we want to talk about this, guys, is a lot of myths, Jackson. What branding's about and what's good branding, what's bad branding. A lot of myths, a lot of competition. There's a lot of marketplace noise. And I would love for you to kind of walk us through and for those listening or watching on YouTube, what is it all about? What does it mean to actually build a brand that stands out? Something you've done so well in Mount Baker and in the Bellingham area. So, Jackson, why is building a brand? We should probably answer that. Why is building a brand so important in today's day and age?
well, your brand is ultimately how you're going to stick out in a marketplace. And on this call we're going to be diving into, well, how do we do that? Right? I've made this nice logo. It looks like it should be sticking out and people should be noticing it, but it's not. And that's the biggest misconception I think we have right there, that your brand is your logo or what your marketing materials look like. And the truth is, it's so much deeper than that. There are so many layers that make up your brand. And ultimately, yeah, you can have a really nice logo, but that's not going to stick out to people unless you end up with something that's called brand reputation. And brand
Mm,
reputation is a culmination of all these different steps, right? All these different steps that we have to take. And then we end up with that good reputation. And that's what makes your brand stick out. So
mm,
yeah, your logo is, an aspect of your brand. And it's an important aspect of your brand too. But your logo by itself isn't going to stick out without all these other steps that I want to
mm.
dive into with you today.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I've heard it said this way too. And you actually had the pleasure of meeting Alex Ramosi in Las Vegas a couple weeks
Yeah.
ago, man. So maybe another podcast talking about that. But Alex mentioned your brand is like a bouquet of flowers, right? And you can add or take away the different elements of your brand. Your brand is the bouquet, it's not a singular flower. And that's right to your point. Many steps. And with the whole goal, what the heck are other people saying about you, about your company, brand reputation? And I'm like, yeah, I like that. Makes a lot more sense than having the best equipment, which we hear. So, okay, we'll get away from that though. Jackson, like we've already maybe touched on a couple, man. I don't know if you have any more to add to it, but like, what are like some common myths, and or maybe even more so common mistakes you see people have, in regards to their branding? I mean, we've touched on they think it's just a great logo. They think it's just a clever little name, and they're focusing on like a grain of sand when they're missing the beach, if you will, when it comes to branding. If that analogy makes sense.
Right. And I think the easiest way to explain this is just going to be breaking it down kind of step by step. And the way that I'd like to explain it is, in a perfect world, let's go back to step one. where you haven't even begun your company yet. You're just doing your research into what's this going to look like? What is your brand going to look like? How are we going to get from A to Z to this amazing brand reputation? So in a perfect world, starting from step one, I would say that the first thing that needs to be done is you need to know your audience. You need to know who you're going to be marketing to and who this is going to stick out to, because certain different brands are going to stick out to different people. It's just how it goes. Certain people are interested in certain things. And so if you try to market to everyone out there, well, you're going to miss most of the people. And really, in a home service business, you should only be looking for a small segment of the population. So figure out who that is before you begin to build your brand, because you're going to want to push that towards just those people. Like for instance, Mercedes doesn't go out there and market to everybody in the world. Ferrari isn't out there marketing to everyone in the world. And then you even go to, look at Toyota or Honda. They're also not marketing to everyone in the world. They have their specific audience segments that they built their brand around and that they market to. So step one is know your audience. How are we going to build this brand if we don't know who we're marketing it to? You need to build a brand that is appealing to a certain type of person. And once you do that, now you're set up to fully reel that type of person in and that segment of audience in. So that's step one. And I think a lot of people miss that. And they try and go for the whole pond, when really we should just be putting the bait on or that lure out for one type of fish, right? And then we can catch that fish all day long. And that's the name of the game. So first, know your audience. And then secondly, once you know your audience, now it's time to build a unique brand identity that is going to be very appealing to that segment of audience. And this is where we get into, what does your logo look like? What does your marketing look like? What is the personality of your brand? How are you speaking to your client? And this is where it gets fun, because you get to be a creator at this point, and you get to figure out, how are we going to make this brand stick out to this person? Because again, we're not trying to stick out to everyone. We're trying to stick out to this very small segment of an audience. And once we start to build that brand identity, the thing that needs to be done is we need to make a brand guidelines. And this can be in the form of a document, but we need to make some sort of guidelines so that we can stay consistent across the board. I see far too many home service businesses out there with branding and marketing material that is inconsistent. There's different colors, there's different typography, and that's going to make it really hard for you to stick out. If everything that you are pushing out into the world looks a little bit different every time. Well, it can look a little bit different, but it can't have massive changes. And so if you're asking me, how do you make a brand that sticks out? Well, you have to be consistent. You have to be consistent time after time after time. If someone sees a yard sign, they should know, oh, that's that brand. If someone sees an ad on Facebook, oh, that's easily identifiable as that brand. Someone sees a vehicle wrap, oh, that's that brand. They see an A-frame sign, that's that brand. You come to their door, you've got a polo on, that is that brand. If you want to stick out and make an impression, it needs to be consistent.
Man, I love that. So many good points, Jackson. It sounds like to me, everything has to be written down, systematized, and structured. Right. That's what it sounds like to me. And it's very meticulous, because to your point, brand recognition, if I were to say, what brand is famous for two colors, red and white?
Ooh, man, there's a few. Toyota. We were just,
we were just talking about Toyota. You are right. I'll give this. Predominant colors red. The writing is white. It's a good trivia game.
H&M?
Good. Really good. Yeah, I like that. I'm thinking we're thirsty.
Oh, Coca-Cola.
There we go, man. There we go. Right. And again, those are two colors, guys. And that's just proves Jackson was able to name Toyota, H&M, and Coca-Cola, all of them multinational billion-dollar companies. So don't sweat the small stuff, but I guarantee if we went into any of their boardrooms or meetings, they know who their target audience is. It's all written down, and they don't go off branding. They don't go off what they know. Toyota's not selling to rich people. They're not trying to sell, hey, this is the most luxurious car you can ever possibly buy, where Ferrari's not saying this is the most reliable commuter-friendly car. Just not happening.
You know,
So
and what's funny about that is that red and white, when I name those three businesses, there must be something about the colors red and white, because if you think about the businesses in that segment, they're all going for a sort of middle class audience there, like a
yeah,
very, very kind of generic middle class audience. They're all, those
man,
are kind of affordable commodities. So,
really good point. Yeah, like really, really good point. I really like that, Jackson. Yeah, well done, man. Okay, cool. Do you have like any, is there anything else we touched on? Like you need to define your target, you need to define who your ideal client avatar is, I should say. Yes, branding and all that is important. We need to again identify what we are going to do, what our brand guidelines are. It goes for, it goes not. What would be another tip or maybe a piece of advice you would give to somebody? Because again, it's very difficult to build a brand because that brand recognition you're talking about isn't just a killer logo, killer website. It's longer term. So would you
yeah,
have any advice for that?
there's more, man. I would just say those are the first two steps. You know, you got to know the audience. You got to create an identity that can relate
Mm,
to you or attract that audience. Once you've done that, now you need a unique value proposition. So, what separates you from your competitors? What kind of value are you offering your clients? Does it come in the form of warranties? Does it come in the form of what your company stands for? Is it your mission? What are you guys there to do, and how are you going to do it differently from your competitors, right? And you know, at Mount Baker Window Cleaning, my exterior cleaning company, we've got lots of warranties, guarantees. We have an excellent company culture based around the outdoors, and this forms our unique value proposition of who we are and what we offer, which is, you know, top notch work in the form that is backed by all these value propositions of warranties, guarantees, state of the art equipment, high paid technicians. That and that helps us go after our audience, which is affluent members of our community, because they
mm,
identify with that. They don't see value in a cheap price. They see value in an excellent service that comes to their home, and are willing to pay that high ticket price for that service. And so, you know, bringing it back, we knew from the beginning there at Mount Baker Window Cleaning, we want these affluent clients. Okay, well, how are we going to get them? What's the brand identity going to look like? Okay, well, we're going to choose something local to our area, because we know that they really like that in our specific demographic, right? What's our value proposition going to be? Well, it's going to be appealing to them. It's not going to serve anyone else in our community. We're not worried about the non-affluent members of our community, unfortunately, because there are other companies out there that will service them, and we're fine with that. We realized that we just wanted this upper echelon tier of clients in our community, and so your value proposition is number 3, right? Number 4, I would say, is now you've got all these pieces to the puzzle going. It's time to get
mm.
this out of the world, and so we need to start building a presence. And how do we build this presence? A
Which I
lot of
feel is where everybody starts. Sorry to cut you off, Jackson. I feel like
Yeah,
everybody just starts at step 4. We were
for
like, hey
sure.
man, like, hey, we got it. We got some few steps to go through before we start actually letting people know who the heck we are and what we do.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, if you miss the knowing your audience and creating this unique value proposition, well, now you're just a commodity that's lost, and you don't even know who you're targeting. You know, and that's where unfortunately a lot of businesses end up, and that's why they face an issue. They don't really know who they are or who they should be going after. So, anyways, after that's completed, you know, we got to get our presence out there. How are we going to get our presence out there? A few different ways. You know, a lot of this can be social media, gaining reviews, you know, getting on Facebook, posting in community groups, posting in neighborhood groups, sending out newsletters to your clients. You need to start letting people know who you are. You've got, you know, you've spent the time to create this awesome brand identity that's sticking out to a specific client, and you've got this awesome value proposition. Now you got to let people know who you are. You got to get the word out there and build this presence. Step 5, once you've done that, you started to get some work in the door. Now we need to showcase your reviews. We need to get those testimonials out. That is the biggest backing to your brand, right? Is what is the community saying about you? Because what the community is saying about you, and we're going to get into this in a second, is your brand reputation, which, like I said at the very beginning, that's how you make a brand that sticks out, is you gain an excellent brand reputation. But how do we get to that reputation? Well, it's all these steps that we're talking about, right? And ultimately, once you've made this identity, your personality, you figured out your positioning and who you're going after, and you figured out this promise to your clients and your potential clients. If all of that culminates with a really good experience that is congruent with what you've been promising, your identity, your personality, what you end up with is an incredible brand reputation. And those are the businesses that stick out. So when you come to me and you ask me, hey, I spent all this money on this logo. It looks really nice. Why isn't this attracting clients? Well, where's everything else? Where is that bouquet that, Hormozi is talking about? It might not be there. And so it's your job to make sure that all these other steps are done very well and in a very, directional manner to the audience segment that you're heading for. And if you can wow those people, if you can knock their socks off and get them talking about your company in a very good light, you end up with this great reputation. Because the definition of branding is actually, and this is really interesting, is how your client views your business and their thoughts on your business. And that might, that's not your logo. It isn't. It's your logo along with everything else, plus their experience equals your reputation, which is your client's thoughts of you. So in an essence, you could have thousands of different brands, because you have thousands of different views on your business, but that is what your brand is. Like Coca-Cola is whatever I think of it. That's their brand, is whatever I think of Coca-Cola, whatever I think of Toyota. And they do a good job in influencing the way that we are going to think about that. And that's your job. You are influencing how you want your brand to come across, but ultimately it's up to the client, and how they portray it.
Yeah. Such good points, Jack. So thank you for sharing this stuff. And we got some more stuff, guys, but I should say some gals are listening too, but like just so many good points. Branding isn't about what you think about your business. You got 1,000 different lenses. It's your baby. It's your child. There's no such thing as an ugly baby, even though we've all seen a couple of them, but if it's your child, they're cute. It's your business. There's nothing wrong with it. The branding's on point. The marketing's on point. Then why aren't you fluxed with leads? That's because people are obviously viewing your brand in a wrong way. Jackson, you reminded me, man, you're going to have a joy coaching this guy. Not going to say his name. I'm just going to say his business, and you're going to know. He came on board actually this morning. He has been following us for quite some time now, Jackson, and he owns an air duct cleaning company in the Seattle area. So he's right up your alley, Vad. He's right in your backyard. I want you to picture. He told me this. I'm like, man, that's so clever. His company name is Star Ducks. Right? Think about this. Star Ducks, Starbucks, Seattle. I'm like, man, and he's like, that's exactly it. He's like, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. That's exactly what has happened every time. They laugh, they chuckle, it's clever, people get it. He's like, that's why we're taught about my branding. And on that, he knows his client avatar, right? He's spent so much time investing in wraps and branding. I was reading some of his reviews, man. He has 350 reviews, which is again phenomenal. They were like, hey, the team, they're mentioning team and it's one guy. That's why he's on with us to help him grow. But it's just crazy how even marketing, your branding can portray something much bigger than it actually is, in the best possible way. And it all comes back to customer centric, customer service. What are those other people, your actual clients, saying about you? Not what your non-ideal client avatar thinks. It's what are your actual clients saying about you?
For sure. And you should be building the brand of the company that you want to grow into. Your brand doesn't need to reflect where you're at right now, especially if you're starting out. You should be shooting for the stars there, Star Ducks, and building a brand that reflects a larger company that you want to grow into, because that part of your brand is going to stick with you for a long time. Right. So yeah,
so good. That is such a good point, Jackson. Yeah, such a good point. Like cast that line out and grow into your brand, guys, on the back end, because nobody knows. And you've come across these companies, for those that are listening, you've come across these companies where you're blown away that they're only as big as they are, because you thought they were so much bigger. Don't
Right.
let your own mind hold you back. Grow into your brand because that brand recognition is going to take you time anyways. It's going to take you a few years to get solid in the marketplace. And it's those couple of years, uh, guys and gals listening, that are so critical, like so crucial. With either you're going to become the 20% that succeed, or you're going to become an 80% that fails. 80% fails because people don't know about you, because you got bad branding, which means you're not getting leads, which means you're not getting revenue, you don't have jobs, you can't grow, you have no money, you have to shut down. All starts with this. Like, this is how important branding is. um Love it. Yeah, sorry, Jackson, I don't mean to go off. I love it. This is so good. um Anything like, so okay, so we've covered your ideal, we've covered your brand guidelines, we had covered recognition, what other people are saying about you, kind of grow into your brand. What are kind of like the next steps? How do we get to this iconic level, maybe, of the people, when they think about gutter cleaning, they think of Mount Baker window cleaning or window washing. When you think about getting your house, the electrical done, or your air duct cleaning, you think of the companies like Coit, these type of companies, right? The service, or Kleenex. It's a tissue paper, right? It's a blow your nose, but the brand is now the thing people say it is. How do we start to move towards that? Is it just, hey, Landon, it's just time, man. Give it time. Stay around long enough, it's going to happen. How have you found that for yourself, Jackson, and kind of any of these next steps?
Well, it's just repetition, right? It's
Mm,
repetition of some of the steps that we were just talking about. And that would be basically 4 and 5 right there. So building that presence, continuing to build that presence, keeping a good reputation, and you just rinse and repeat that. If you can rinse and repeat that while you grow, and as you start to collect more profit, more money into your business, keep being a part of the community. Sponsor things, get your logo out there as much as possible. And as long as you're keeping this good reputation and you're keeping this presence, your brand is going to be recognizable, and it's going to stick out. Uh, but
mm,
but the first thing that needs to happen is you need to start building that good reputation before you start
mm.
going and plastering your logo everywhere around town.
Yeah, okay, because that was my next question, Jackson. We're talking about step four. We're talking about letting people know. Another common mistake we've seen, and maybe this is more, maybe we're shifting to marketing, but we're going to try and keep laser focus on branding. Is, if everybody knows, so I'm just going to run a general ad, or I'm going to invest $5,000 into ads, or hey, I'll just turn on ads and it'll all work. Like, I find that people, and it's like, I always use this analogy, building a brand is like marketing. Organic's better because it's like we're building a fire, right? And we're building the fire pit, we're chopping the wood, we're getting the kindling, and then we're going to light the fire. Where a lot of people with their brand, they just throw a bunch of gas on the fire. What happens? It happens. The video on social media blows up. You get sponsored or you get a news, a Channel 5 news slot for 2 minutes on the 6 o'clock news hour, whatever it is. Maybe there's that blip. You're like, man, I don't know where all these leads are coming in. And then, since you haven't built that proper foundation, as Jackson's talking about, you don't know who you can say yes and who you can say no to. You don't know where these people are coming in from. There's so many different things. Thoughts on that, Jackson? Like, when you are letting people know, what has been your approach with letting people know effectively over a long period of time without, again, tarnishing brand reputation as you move out throughout the years?
Yeah, so I think a lot of that goes back into, step 4 there, right? Where we're talking about building
Mm-hmm.
a presence. And a lot of that can be done organically, getting your
Mm,
clients to talk to one another, getting these referrals
mm,
on Facebook, getting them on Nextdoor. You're building your brand locally. And if you're saying this in relation to pay-per-click ads, which I think is what you were getting at a second ago, let's say you got a brand new company and you go drop $2,000 in pay-per-click ads. No one knows who your business is. You might end up doing well, but likelihood is it's not going to do as well if you just wait, build your brand organically, start building that locally, letting people know who you are. Then when you go out and you put out that pay-per-click ad, and you've got a call to action next to your logo, next to your branding, that's when those ads will start to do really well, because
mm.
the people viewing that have hopefully heard of you at this point.
Mm-hmm.
They saw you at the neighbor's house. That one of their friends or family said that you did a really great job for them. And so don't go waste a bunch of money on pay-per-click ads unless you've done everything you can possibly do to build your brand locally first and become, you know, a celebrity in your community and in these neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And actually, I'll add to this, Jackson, too. I was reading somewhere 7 touch points for somebody to know, like, and trust your company, your brand. That can be touch points consciously or unconsciously, because whether you know this or not, your brain is always, it's recorded everything, which I find fascinating. I'm like, why can I not recall more if you remember everything I've seen? That's my issue. Maybe anybody else has that. So we're seeing that when you're out, and this goes right to the 7 touch points are not just going to be, I see the ad 7 times and oh, now I trust them. It's independent sources. I've seen their logo on a yard sign. I've seen it on a flyer. I've heard somebody mention their name before. Again, that's where a logo or a clever little name can help stick a little more in your mind. But at the end of the day, attack from all fronts, not just narrowing yourself down to, oh, I only am going to do pay-per-click and everything, and all my lead issues are solved. We're not in 2015, folks. I wish that was the case, but it just
Yeah.
it ain't. Jackson, this is great. I don't want this to run on too long, man. But any other final pieces of advice, tips, things you've seen after coaching 100+ guys now yourself? Any common tips or maybe mistakes you're like, man, do this, don't do that?
Yeah, I would say at the beginning when you're just starting out, you just built your company, go overboard on making a fantastic brand that sticks out from everyone else. And when I'm talking about brand right now, I am generalizing this into your brand identity. I see a lot of folks come into the industry and they've got, if you know any pressure washing logos, you've probably seen one where there's a wand and a little roof over it of a house. And I'm like, man, I've seen that logo 1,000 times now. Maybe like slightly different variations. I don't know who's making those for people. I hope they stop, honestly, because they're doing you a disservice. There's nothing unique about that. And so, you know, be bold, be unique, make something memorable, and then go after those clients with that. If you choose something very generic and you're going after everyone, then you're not going to get who you're looking for. You don't even know who you're looking for. So it's going to be impossible to catch that fish. So that would be my advice. Just be bold, be unique from the beginning. Stick to it. You know, stick to your branding plan. Make your brand guidelines. Be consistent. Get that reputation. And man, you're just going to watch your brand develop into something special that people remember.
Yeah, guys, guys and gals listening, Jackson, thank you so much for your insight. As somebody who, how many 5-star reviews? Because a review is a great measure of how good you're branding and everything that comes with that. What are you at now?
So we have 480, and that's happened in the past 3 years in a town of 80,000. So I'm pretty happy with that.
To say the least. To say the least, Jackson. Guys, we're not going to get into how he's gotten all those reviews. Maybe we'll get into it after, but how to build a brand that stands out in the marketplace. Define, identify, guideline. What is that? Let them know. I stopped rhyming.
You want a unique value proposition, right? What are you offering that makes you stand out from your competitors? How are you actually going to make that logo stand out, right? What's behind it? What's the meaning behind that? What do your clients get in return? Building that presence and then showcasing your reviews. You know, that's pushing your reputation out there. You're projecting your reputation into the masses when you're showcasing your reviews.
Yeah. Love that, Jackson. Guys, if you're listening on podcast, YouTube, drop a comment on the YouTube, share this with somebody in your local area, in your industry, or in another industry. Like, I just want to make everybody aware, Jackson, we're not just coaching and we don't just help washers and window cleaners. We actually help landscapers, plumbers, electricians, junk removal, landscapers, painters. We can help them all. So if you know, if anybody listening, if you know, if you're like, man, I've seen that Jackson guy before on Upflip, reach out to him, send him a message. You know, maybe he'll get back to you. And like always, book a call in with me. We got to figure out if we like you. And you've heard me say this 1,000 times. I'm going to sound like a broken record because it's brand guidelines. Do we like each other? Can we help you out? I have no idea. Let's have a call. It's not going to be pressure sales. It's just, do we like each other and can we help you out? I will repeat that until the sum comes home. So again, the link will be below the podcast and YouTube. Share this with somebody. Leave a comment below. Tell us what you like. Tell us maybe my hair's messed up if you're watching on YouTube. But Jackson, appreciate you greatly, man. I appreciate you and your time. Okay. So everybody take care. Share this.